Imagine this for a second. You wake up one morning, check your mailbox, and find a bill. No problem, you think. I will pay it later. But then you realize your neighbor is also in debt. Your city is in debt. Your state is in debt. Even your entire country is drowning in debt. So, here is the million-dollar question. If everyone owes money, who do we actually owe it to? It almost feels like one of those absurd comedy sketches. Imagine a giant game of musical chairs. Except, instead of music, it is debt being passed around. And at the end, someone must be left holding the chair. Or, in this case, the I owe you. But who is it? In today's video, we are going to break down this puzzle in the simplest way possible. We will answer, who really holds all this debt? How do countries, banks, and even you and I fit into this giant money web? And finally, what happens when the final creditor comes knocking? By the end, you will see debt not as a scary mystery, but as a giant interconnected story with winners, losers, and some surprising twists. And do not worry, there will be no boring economics lectures here, only clear explanations with a bit of humor to keep us awake. Section 1. What exactly is debt? Let us start simple. Debt is basically a promise. I will give you money later if you give me money now. Think of it like borrowing your friend's lawnmower, except instead of giving it back tomorrow, you promise, I will return it next summer. And by the way, I will also mow your lawn once a week as interest. Now scale this up. Banks lend to people, governments borrow from investors, companies borrow from banks, and even entire countries borrow from each other. The world runs on promises to pay later. But here's the kicker. If everybody is borrowing, where is all the original money coming from? That leads us to the next step. Section 2. Why is everyone in debt? Picture this. The government of the United States owes more than $30 trillion. Japan, more than 200% of its entire economy in debt. Even small countries like Greece have faced severe crises because they borrowed far too much. But wait, it is not just governments. Citizens of the United States alone hold more than $16 trillion in household debt from mortgages, credit cards, and student loans. So why is debt everywhere? Because debt fuels growth. Imagine a teenager with a lemonade stand. She borrows $10 to buy lemons, sugar, and cups. She sells lemonade, makes $20, pays back the loan, and keeps $10 as profit. Without that small loan, her stand might never have existed. On a larger scale, governments borrow to build roads, hospitals, and sometimes even to rescue banks during crises. Companies borrow to expand. People borrow to buy houses. Debt is like gasoline for the economy. It's powerful, but if spilled everywhere, highly flammable. So the question becomes, when all of us borrow at once, who is pouring this gasoline into the tank? Section 3. Who actually lends the money? Here comes the big reveal. The final creditors are usually a mix of three groups: investors and citizens. Believe it or not, many Americans are creditors to their own government. Every time someone buys a United States Treasury bond, they are literally lending money to the government. A grandmother's retirement fund? Yes, she might be the one financing the national debt. Banks and financial institutions, they lend out money that they themselves often borrowed from depositors or even other banks. It is a never-ending chain of lending. Foreign governments and investors, China and Japan, for example, hold huge amounts of United States government debt. Meanwhile, the United States also holds bonds from other countries. It is like a giant international promise to pay later swap party. So, when you hear the United States owes China, remember, it is not like China will show up tomorrow demanding cash. They hold bonds which are just promises to be paid back over time. But here is the plot twist. If everyone is lending to everyone else, does this debt circle ever end? Ever. Section 4. How can debt keep growing forever? This is where things get both fascinating and a little absurd. Governments do not usually pay off all their debt. Instead, they roll it over. That means when one loan comes due, they take another loan to pay it off. Like paying your old credit card bill with a brand new credit card. Sounds dangerous, right? But here's the secret. As long as the economy keeps growing and investors keep believing in the system, it actually works. Take Japan as an example. It has been heavily in debt for decades, but most of that debt is owed to its own citizens. And since Japanese people keep buying government bonds, the system continues. Or the United States. Because the dollar is the world's reserve currency, countries actually want to hold United States debt. For them, American debt is seen as one of the safest investments on earth. Strange, but true. But here is the uncomfortable question. What if people stop trusting that the borrower will ever pay them back? Section 5. What happens when trust breaks? When trust collapses, things get ugly. History gives us painful examples. Argentina has defaulted on its debt multiple times, leaving investors furious and citizens suffering under inflation. Greece in 2010 had to be bailed out by the European Union to avoid collapse. Even the United States has faced debt ceiling standoffs, where politicians argue about whether the government should be allowed to borrow more. Each time, markets panic at the thought that the safest borrower in the world might not pay up. If the chain of trust breaks, investors flee, currencies fall, and ordinary people pay the price through job losses, inflation, and cuts in services. So the final creditor is not some shadowy figure in a dark room. It is us. It is you, me, our banks, our retirement funds, and even foreign allies. And when the system shakes, it is regular people who feel the earthquake. Conclusion. Debt is everywhere because it fuels our world. It builds highways, launches businesses, and lets families buy homes. But debt also carries risk because the chain is only as strong as the trust holding it together. On one side, debt can be a tool for growth. On the other side, it can become a ticking time bomb. And when we ask, who is the final creditor? The surprising answer is all of us. Whether through our savings, pensions, or even our taxes, we are both the debtors and the creditors of this global system. Now, it is your turn. What do you think? If everyone is in debt, do you believe the system is sustainable forever? Or is it a bubble waiting to burst? Drop your thoughts and questions in the comments. I would love to hear what confuses you most about this giant money puzzle. And if you enjoyed this explainer, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos that make complex money topics simple, and check out my other video on how governments actually create money without printing physical bills. Trust me, it will blow your mind.